Um, Got it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I will start off by saying good morning and welcome to everybody. Before we get started, I would like everyone to know that we are recording today's session. This is our December AARP New Hampshire Coffee and Conversations, and we will be talking about taking care of our caregivers. My name is Kathy Hoey, and I am one of your co-hosts for today's conversation. I am an AARP New Hampshire volunteer. Our guest speaker this morning is Jennifer Brechtel from the Granite's VNA, Visiting Nurses Association, sorry. With me today are AARP New Hampshire volunteers Frances Donahue and Bev Cotton, as well as Ashley Davis, our fearless leader. Frances is co-hosting with me, and Bev is doing registration and monitoring the chat. Bev will be messaging you for your name to complete your registration. She will also be monitoring the chat and raising your questions and comments throughout this program. So I would like to cover a few housekeeping items. Be sure to mute your line by ensuring your microphone icon on the far left part of your computer or laptop has a line through it. This will help to eliminate background noise. We would love to hear from you though, and this morning. And if you would like to ask a question or comment, please use the chat box, which can be accessed by the chat button at the bottom of your screen. At AARP New Hampshire, we are focused on the health, financial security, and social connections critical to the well-being of the 50 plus in the Granite State. We carry out our work through targeted advocacy at the state and federal levels, compelling engagement of the 50 plus community. Oh dear, this is not, okay, here we go. Statewide, and serving as a trusted resource for our members and the public. Take it away, Frances.
Good morning. So it can be challenging for caregivers to find the right balance between caregiving, work, COVID, the holidays, and any number of issues causing stress and burnout. Jennifer, our guest speaker this morning, will provide some tips and resources that are available through the Granite VNA and show you how ServiceLink can also help caregivers. The Granite VNA offers 4 different caregiving support groups and resource guides for self-care. They can be contacted at www.granitevna.org/caregiver sources. Bev will put that link in the chat for you. Jennifer Brechtel, CHES, is the Community Benefit Manager at Granite VMA. She also plans, develops, coordinates, and oversees the agency community health, home health, and hospice throughout the agency. Jen is a certified health education specialist, and she facilitates many of the agency's wellness programs, which include a matter of balance, powerful tools for caregivers, and better choices and better health. Jennifer is also the community liaison for physician offices and the community health. Welcome, Jennifer, and thank you for joining us this morning. So, Jennifer, the holidays are a busy time for all. What tips do you have for caregivers during this time of year?
Sure. Thank you, Frances, and thank you everyone for having me join you this morning. And I am happy to answer any questions. So like Kathy said, feel free to put those in the chat. But, when I think about the holidays and how busy they are for all of us, but then I also think about, caregivers and what they're trying to accomplish this time of year. My biggest tip is really to try not to overcommit. So I completely appreciate that is so much easier said than done. And when we think about the holidays, there's this amazing expectation that our holidays are perfect, right? We do what we've done for years and years every holiday. And I think it's important to remember when we talk about the holidays, perfection is next to impossible. And so really, it's kind of remembering the intent of the holidays, which is really kind of being together, finding meaning and joy. So kind of adjusting the view of what makes the holiday perfect can be helpful. So I think it's important to talk to loved ones to learn more about what makes the holidays meaningful for them. but also kind of provide some reflection with yourself to think about what makes the holidays meaningful for you. Um, and then you can set your priorities from there and really work to make sure that you're not overcommitting yourself to be doing all of these things. So, and when we think about what makes the holidays special, is it a special ornament? So I know for me, kind of it doesn't start until that ornament from my grandmother goes on the Christmas tree, which is this awful fake angel hair ornament. But, it just resonates with me because it was my grandmother. So that has meaning for me around the holidays. For others, it might be, a menorah that's been passed down through the family. Maybe it's those holiday movies or specific holiday music. Those things sometimes can be enough to make the holidays special and to make the holidays meaningful. Sometimes we invest, time in things because, I think about my grandmother. She used to always do peanut butter dates, which nobody ever touched, but every year you would see peanut butter dates out, with powdered sugar and stuff on them. And I'm pretty sure she could have froze those things each year and kept putting them out. But to her, that's what made the holiday. That's what made it special for her. So thinking about those things, what things maybe could you go without this year that wouldn't impact how you feel about the holidays? But, again, simplifying the holidays, if you're thinking about decorations, right? Some of us put out grand, great, lavish decorations for the holidays, and that can feel really overwhelming just to even think about, everything that you might want to put out. So, take a step back and pause and think about what are the most meaningful pieces, what really do you need to have out that's going to set the tone for your holiday? Or if you have other people in your lives that maybe you could ask them to help you decorate if that might be beneficial. And so, inviting them over for, hot cocoa and cookies and some Christmas music, and you just decorate together. And so, again, that might be something that brings you kind of fills your glass, for lack of a better word, but also helps you check a task off, your holiday to-do list. Sending cards is another thing. I actually told my husband this year, I'm not sending holiday cards. And he said to me, well, you have to send holiday cards. We send them every year. Like, you have to send them. And I said, well, guess what? You're going to send the holiday cards this year. And sure enough, he's taken the lead on it. But that was one thing for me that felt really overwhelming this holiday season. And I just didn't really want to do it. So, think about that. If it takes a lot of time to send your cards, maybe send e-cards instead of an actual, card through the US Postal Service, or only send cards to a few key people, or, instead of hand addressing all of your envelopes in beautiful penmanship, maybe use a label and, kind of addresses, do them on your computer. So then each year, kind of moving forward, you could just print those out. And traditions is another thing, right? We all have holiday traditions, and with tradition comes a lot of meeting. So really think about what new traditions could you do, or how could you adapt to maybe traditions that you've done in the past. So, I think about, as people, get older, or as conditions progress, sometimes mobility can be impacted. And so, if you're a family that's always gone to a holiday show or a holiday play, you go see a Christmas Carol every year, maybe it's thinking about adapting kind of how you're doing that. And so maybe you can still go to the show, but you just need to call and plan ahead a little bit with the theater as far as access and seating and all of that. But maybe, kind of a flip side to that is, if you always go to a holiday concert, maybe you could watch the holiday concert or a holiday concert on the television together. Or, you could go out driving around, looking at holiday lights and listening to holiday music. So just really thinking about, is it time, or is there opportunity to kind of adapt new traditions, excuse me, as these transitions kind of happen in the lives of the people that we're caring for, and also as those transitions happen for ourselves. So, I told the date story about my grandmother, but food can so much be the focus of the holidays, right? So, thinking about, from the holiday meal to the sweet treats that we might gift to neighbors or family or friends, really thinking about, how much angst that can cause in our lives and impact our holiday kind of joy. So think about ways to pare down what you traditionally do. So maybe you do 3 dozen cookies instead of 6 dozen cookies, or grocery stores now, you can order holiday meals from them and pick them up and you kind of heat and serve, or maybe thinking about going out to a restaurant if that is a possibility. And if none of those really kind of, seem of interest to you because holiday meals are meant to be home cooked and at home, think about minimizing maybe the number of sides that you're offering or the number of desserts. So, really, I think when we think about the holidays, you know, less can be more and make those holidays more meaningful for us. And, I think asking for help. And even if it's not something that maybe is in your comfort zone or that you do kind of outside of this time of year, asking for extra help with those holiday preparations, even if it's a small task or maybe just might take a few hours for someone to complete, could really be kind of a huge relief and really shift, how you're feeling and how your holidays kind of move forward. But I guess I'd be remiss if I was talking to caregivers and didn't say, above all else, when we talk about the holidays and caregivers, it really is about practicing self-care. And that looks different for each of us, but like our cars, we're not able to run on empty, right? We need to fuel our bodies. We need to eat well, be physically active, kind of find out what continues to light our fire and make sure that we're filling our cup. And what fills our cup, just make sure we're making time to do that in the midst of all of this other stuff that we've kind of we're expected to do around the holidays. And when we talk about the holidays, sometimes the expectations on us of others can really drive kind of how we feel and what we do. And I think it's letting go of that. If somebody really wants those holiday cards sent out, trust me, they're going to do them, because if my husband's going to do them, he really wants them done. So that would be my advice to caregivers. So hopefully that was helpful.
That was, Jen, that was really suggestible. A lot of good tips and suggestions.
Sure.
And talking about being busy, your organization provides many resources for caregivers. Could you tell us about what you do and where?
Sure. So I think when most people think of a visiting nurse association, they traditionally think of individuals who are recovering from home, maybe after being in the hospital or having a stay at a skilled nursing facility. And while Granite VNA is a traditional home care and hospice provider supporting 82 communities in the capital in the Lakes region, we also have a pretty robust what we call community health programming or community benefit programming. And for us as an organization, it's really important for us to make sure that we are supporting the communities that we serve by making sure there is access to health and wellness programs to help individuals age in place. And when we think about family caregivers, that's a big part of people's ability to age in place, not only the people that our caregivers are caring for, but also for caregivers themselves, because we want caregivers to find opportunity and time to take care of themselves. So we have spent some time doing quite a bit of different things to support family caregivers to ensure a successful journey. And COVID certainly kind of impacted how we did things and how we're coming back from them. But we do an online caregiver support group, which is open to anyone. So I said we cover 82 towns in the capital and Lakes region. But for us, if someone lives outside of those 82 towns and they could benefit from any one of the programs that we offer under community health, we want them to participate in those programs. So, if we've got someone maybe who's living in Littleton, if they want to participate in our caregiver connection group, we're certainly going to encourage them. And I think that's the silver lining to everything that's been going on is an increase in online access for people. So all of this information can be found on our website, which is granitvna.org. But our online caregiver group is on the fourth Wednesday of every month from 10 to 11. And we use one of our medical social workers to facilitate that group and just make sure people are able to connect with each other, receive that support, but also have that connectivity to some of the resources that exist throughout our great state. We also do powerful tools for caregivers. which if people have not heard of that program, it is an educational program focused on family caregivers. And really, the intent of Powerful Tools for Caregivers is to provide family caregivers resources to take care of themselves. So again, we know caregivers are, self-care can sometimes be put on the back burner. And we want people to realize as a caregiver, you really have to be taking care of yourselves to be able to provide the best possible care to your loved one. So Powerful Tools for Caregivers is a 6-week evidence-based program, meaning it is a national program. So it's offered throughout the country. But again, it just focuses on giving caregivers the tools they need to be successful. So we talk a little bit about self-care. We talk about communication. We talk about emotions and the emotions that come with caregiving and how do we kind of respond and respect and listen to those emotions as they're occurring. And then we do a lot of we call it action planning. So we want people at the end of every class to set an action plan because our hope is people will realize when we talk about self-care or we talk about kind of refilling our glass, it might not need to be this large kind of block of time. It might be kind of a 5-minute walk, depending on how long your driveway is, I guess, a 5-minute walk to the mailbox by yourself where you truly kind of are in the moment and you're listening to the sounds, you're feeling, the either this time of year, the cool air on your face, you're smelling kind of what winter smells like, you're listening to the winter birds. So again, those smaller opportunities to reset. So it's a great program. We do have a online Powerful Tools for Caregivers starting in January, on January 23rd from 1 to 2:30. We do all of our community health programming at no charge to the community because we really think it's important for people to have access to services and we never want payment to be a barrier. So if people are interested in that, our website is a great place to go. But I'm always happy if someone called the agency to have a conversation with them as well. We also do memory cafes. We currently have one here in the capital region. In the spring, we'll be adding one to Laconia in the Lakes region. And for those of you who aren't familiar with kind of the concept of a memory cafe truly is an opportunity for someone living with cognitive impairment, whether that's an Alzheimer's or a dementia, or maybe even a memory impairment as a result of a chronic condition, like a Parkinson's or something like that, to come with their caregiver and be with other individuals kind of in a safe and supportive environment. So for this, it's really about connection and really about being together and being with people who can appreciate and understand kind of where you're coming from. And so again, this isn't a support group, but it really is that opportunity to kind of be with others. And for the person living with some type of memory impairment, it can really be helpful because it helps them understand they're not alone in what they're experiencing and how they're feeling. And the same thing for the caregiver. You're going to be with people who probably are experiencing maybe different but similar experiences. So it's a great opportunity. Right now, our Memory Cafe in Concord is on the first Thursday of every month at the Citywide Community Center. We partner with Concord Parks and Rec because they have a beautiful space that they let us use. We do our cafe from 2 to 3:30. Usually we have we always have snacks, but we always also sometimes we'll have special guests come in. For December, we've got a very talented woman who plays the accordion for us. So she came in and played the accordion for our group. We had some holiday music, we had some food, we had some laughs. It was a really kind of nice moment. But it's great. We keep it really informal and we work to kind of meet the needs of the group as we go through because, each month can be different and different people can come. And that's a drop in because we completely appreciate as a caregiver, especially for someone with memory impairment, it can be hard to plan too far ahead. So we never want registrations to be a barrier. If someone's having a great day and the memory cafe is a good fit, we want them to come. We don't want them to pause and think, oh my gosh, I didn't register. Nope, just gets in the way. We want people just to come if the moment is right. And the other thing I would say we do for family caregivers, although this applies to everyone we service, all adults, we do walk-in Wednesdays. And really what that is we put medical social workers out in our communities, really with the goal of providing access to a social worker, right? So if you're not receiving home care, if your physician office doesn't have a social worker, sometimes accessing the expertise of a social worker can be hard. And so we put our social workers out there as part of our investment in the community. Ultimately, our hope is that they're helping individuals complete their advanced care planning documentation, so their durable power of attorneys and their living wills. But with that, we also have kind of the chat distracts me. I can't help it. I always want to read it, and I should just ignore it and let Bev take care of it. But I hone in on it. But again, resources are hard. So being able to have a social worker every day, day in and day out, they are working with families, linking them to resources, making sure they're supported. It's great to know that you've got those in the community. And Frances, I know memory cafes were happening kind of throughout the state. I'm not sure what has or has not resumed in kind of where we're at now with COVID and everything. We just restarted our cafe in October. I know pre-COVID, the Currier Museum of Art had an amazing memory cafe in Manchester, and I'm not sure if that has restarted. And I also know the Dover Children's Museum had an amazing program as well. But again, in a post-COVID world, I'm not sure if those have restarted yet or not. Yes, Kathy, yes, there are other health classes that we do. So for us, again, it's making sure our communities are supported in their ability to age well. And so, we do a Matter of Balance, which is a 8-week fall risk reduction program, really helping people increase their physical activity while reducing any thoughts or feels or concerns they might have around falls. It's a great program. Sometimes when you look online at these programs that we offer, you see like, oh my gosh, it's a 90-minute class. Oh my gosh, it's a 2.5-hour class. But I promise you that time goes quickly, because for all of the education that we do, powerful tools, Matter of Balance, our Live Well, Be Well, our Aging Mastery, it really is all about conversation and using the power and the experiences of those participants in our groups to foster learning, right? We've all got amazing life experiences that have taught us how to navigate and live well. And so all of those classes do that. So a Matter of Balance is one. We also do the Aging Mastery program, which is through the National Council on Aging. I think we might be the only organization in the state doing Aging Mastery. And what I like about Aging Mastery, it is a 10-week class, but in those 10 weeks, you get access to what I like to call subject matter experts working in 10 different dimensions of aging well. So we have someone come in and talk about financial fitness. We have someone come in and talk about sleep. We have someone come in and talk about being engaged in our communities. We have somebody come in and talk about relationships. And then we do the usual VNA stuff. We do falls, we do advanced care planning, and that type of stuff. But it's really neat because, again, you've got access to those experts and you can ask them any question you want. I always say to the people kind of leading those, I know we've got the curriculum, but if people have questions, those are the things that I really want to make sure are answered, because that's why people come to these things, right? Is to get their questions answered. And the other national program that we do is called Live Well, Be Well, which is the chronic disease self-management program. So that really is intended for people living with ongoing health conditions or their caregiver, and really provides people, with information and resources to manage their ongoing health conditions. So if you're someone who's living with diabetes, heart failure, COPD, or any other chronic illness, you've probably been living with it for a period of time, a long period of time. And so you think you've got things figured out, but Live Well, Be Well is just a nice reminder and does provide some additional information about how do we kind of, live our life, maintain or regain some of our quality of life while managing this health condition. And so, we all know that we experience symptoms as a result of our condition, and our symptoms can feed other symptoms. So if I'm feeling pain, I might feel a little bit tired. I might feel a little bit grumpy because I'm a little bit tired. So what we do in Live Well, Be Well is we really look at what tools can we use to stop our pain, so maybe we don't get tired and we don't get grumpy and we don't start to experience those difficult emotions. So that's some of the additional education that we do. We also spend a bit of time with kind of partners in the community. So libraries, community centers, senior centers, churches, providing just 1 hour kind of one-off wellness programs. And it might be around aging well, or a kind of down and dirty in falls or something like that. But, for us, it's making sure we're out in those communities, really supporting the mission of the agency, which is to help people, age well and age in place.
So that goes to the question that I was just going to ask, which is, there
Sure.
other organizations who support caregivers in New Hampshire that we should know about? You mentioned the libraries, and you do things in there as well, but
Yes.
Terrier.
Yes. Yep. So there are tons of, there's lots of organizations that support caregivers and people in aging well in New Hampshire. I think the one I always want to make sure of, especially when we're talking about caregivers, is I always want to make sure people know about ServiceLink. And, it's interesting when you work in the healthcare field for so long, ServiceLink just becomes something you just know about, and you make the assumption that everybody knows that it exists. But the number of times I've said to people, have you ever heard of ServiceLink? And they're like, no, I haven't. I'm like, ooh, let me share this with you. So ServiceLink is New Hampshire's kind of their designated aging and disability resource center. So I always say to people, if you're looking for information and you have no idea where to go, they are a great first stop. And ServiceLink is statewide. Each county has a ServiceLink office. Maybe it would, if it's possible, we could put either their website or their 866 number in the chat. But really kind of ServiceLink provides services for individuals of all ages, income levels, and abilities. So, they administer programs and services like kind of information and referral assistance. They do a lot of support for family caregivers, making sure they're linked to what they need, or they're aware of what exists maybe for respite grants or additional supports. They have some options counseling. They are the home for the New Hampshire the New Hampshire Family Caregiver Program, I think is its official name. They also have this amazing Tina Goulet, who works, I actually think she works for the state. I think she works for BEAS. True is a great resource for people. It's an online education for family caregivers. And they have all kinds of different online self-paced modules that people can participate in. But ServiceLink also does SHIP and some Medicare counseling, is open enrollment. I think comes to a close this week, right? Is that true? I know AARP does that as well. But, so again, kind of the intent of ServiceLink is to kind of be that single point of entry for anyone looking or in need of long-term supports and services for aging adults with disabilities, and their caregivers. The other thing open enrollment ends tomorrow. Thank you, Mary. For Medicare. The other thing I might add to that is 211. New Hampshire is a comprehensive database, really available to provide individuals with the most up-to-date resources that people might need. 211, you pick up your phone and you dial 211, and you'll be connected to our New Hampshire our New Hampshire 211 team, and they're available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So really, again, another place for people to go should they need information. And that's a kind of a quick and easy access. And, outside of kind of those two, if nothing else, walking away with those are key. I think it's also important to kind of think about those organizations that you might be able to connect with, really dependent on what your need is, right? There's lots of organizations in the state, that provide different things. So, there's lots of VNAs that do some of the same stuff that we do, but also some different stuff that we do that could provide resources and supports for caregivers. I think about the Alzheimer's Association for people caring for individuals with memory impairment or cognitive impairment. They have online education. They've got caregiver counseling services. They've got the 24/7 helpline. I think about the Brain Injury Association or Easter Seals, Future Insight. The possibilities are endless. But I think ServiceLink is a great kind of starting point, because they can then kind of use their tentacles to get you linked with those other places that might be beneficial for someone.
So that goes to the question of who would you reach out to first, which would be Service Link and 211, as you mentioned.
Yeah,
But
I would say, go ahead,
go ahead.
Kathy, sorry. I
I'm
was just going
sorry.
to say Service Link 211. I think physicians are also a great starting point, sometimes that we don't think about from a resource perspective. So either your personal physician or the physician of the person that you're providing care to, you know, having a conversation with them, letting them know if you need resources or support. I think, you know, because they've got nurse, you know, they've got, we call them nurse navigators in the capital region, but they've got social workers, they've got staff that could help you navigate those really sometimes complex waters. And Service Link and 211, yes.
Yeah. So that sounds good. Does anybody else have any other questions they would like to ask from our listeners?
I was just wondering if everything's just during the day, or do they have things that happen at night so that people who still work during the day can attend? You know, I have a friend and she works from home, but she takes care of her mother with Alzheimer's, and her husband, who still works, but because he works from home, but is having memory issues and, you know, problems like that. So, you know, if I want to tell her something that she could see when she's not working.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff is done kind of during the day when organizations are open and operational. We do try to do some evening stuff because we completely appreciate that caregivers and people maybe who could benefit from some of the services that we provide are working at the same time we are. So it's a little bit harder to get stuff to happen at night, partly just due to staff availability because they've got commitments outside of work as well. And partly, at least for some of our, you know, like a powerful tools for caregivers, that's a little bit harder in the evening just because it's a 90-minute class. So, you know, getting people, you know, able to get out of their house and participate 90 minutes in the evening is hard because either you're smack on dinner time or you're rolling into, you know, some people's bedtime plus travel on either side. But I think that, you know, has potential with online education because, you know, people could do it from the comfort of their home and not have to worry about travel on either side. And that's what we sometimes think about is the travel time, especially for our powerful tools for caregivers. You know, we do that online. We appreciate that sometimes online is hard for people, either due to, you know, reliable connectivity or access to devices or, you know, a bunch of other things. But, you know, it's easier sometimes for a caregiver to sign on to a 90-minute class knowing that they don't have to drive. Right, in New Hampshire, maybe 30 minutes on either side. So, you know, I think it's something as an organization we can look at a little bit differently and use volunteers for, because we do use volunteers to facilitate some of our programming.
Yep. John asked about referrals from Manchester for eye doctors who specialize in treating the elderly.
That is a bit outside of my wheelhouse. I'm gonna cough, so give me a minute. Excuse me. But I think, you know, again, maybe asking a primary care physician if they know of any specialists, having conversations with friends and neighbors, I think can be beneficial in these instances. Although sometimes it's hard because we don't want people to know maybe, you know, some of our intricacies in our business like that. And I completely appreciate and respect that. And I don't know, this could be a long shot, but, you know, I'm wondering if even because it's older adult, if Service Link might have some knowledge in that area, just, you know, having worked with other, you know, older adults maybe who have had similar needs. Yeah. So sorry, John, I don't have a great answer for you. But if I hear of anyone, I will pass it along to Francis and Bev and Kathy and Ashley, who maybe can get it along to you.
I'm not supposed to say this, but I do go to New Hampshire Eye in Manchester myself. So,
well, there you go.
But anyway, thank you again for joining us today, Jennifer.
Sure.
It's been a pleasure to have you join us this morning to talk about the resources available for caregivers in New Hampshire. Once again, the Granite State VNA can be reached at www.granitevna.org/caregiver resources. Francis put that in the chat. And if you want to contact Service Link, their website is www.servicelink.newhampshire.gov. And I think we'll be putting that in the chat as well. AARP link for caregivers is www.aarp.org/caregiving. And thank you to our audience today for joining us for today's coffee and conversation. I hope you found the information and resources that Jennifer mentioned of value to you. I would encourage all of you to visit AARP's website at www.aarp.org. You don't even need to be an AARP member to access it. AARP New Hampshire is offering a variety of virtual and in-person events. For more information, please visit the AARP New Hampshire website. It's another one, www.aarp.org/New Hampshire. New Hampshire AARP will sponsor our January Coffee and Conversations, which will be on January 3rd, 2023. We will be talking about what is needed to complete your 2023 taxes. If you are interested in becoming a New Hampshire AARP volunteer, please email us at newhampshireaarp@aarp.org. Anyway, be well, have a great holidays, and take care, and thank you for joining our conversation today. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.